Thank you so much for joining us here. If you've been with us all day or just jumping in for this session, we're super grateful to have you joining us today. This is the last session, breakout session for today's series of conversations at the conference. You can join us again tomorrow morning, or any point tomorrow. We'll be live all day. But thank you for joining us. My name is Danielle Hubley. I manage advocacy and education at the Partnership for Strong Communities. And this year we are hosting the Connecticut Affordable Housing Conference under the theme Here for Housing. It is our opportunity to convene, collaborate, and drive meaningful change to improve and expand housing affordability, creation, choice, and stability across our state. We hope you'll join into the conversation since this is a virtual setting. We are trying to stay live and active on social media. So please use the hashtag CAHC2024 across socials if you're posting or sharing quotes. We love to see what everybody's taking away as key learnings from the conversations today. So just to level set and orient you to where you are today, you have joined session 3.2, Advancing Racial Equity and Housing Development. The session will run for 50 minutes. Please plan to jump into the conversation. I'll get a little bit more into how in a second. But first and foremost, before we turn it over to our presenters, I always have to thank our session conference sponsors and session sponsors. Without their support and their investment in the conference, we wouldn't be able to host all of these great learning opportunities for free to so many people. So we're so grateful for their support. We have our presenting sponsors, our visionary sponsor, our champion sponsors, our foundation sponsors, and particularly for today's session, our investor sponsor, Mohegan Tribe. So thank you so much to all of their support and, again, financial investment in the conference and these learning opportunities. So like I said before, you will have the opportunity to jump in and ask any questions that you have. All of the sessions today are being recorded. So within the next week or so, they'll be available on our YouTube page, and usually we have a channel specifically for the conference, so feel free to check out all of the content from today and tomorrow there. Please plan to keep your microphone muted, and unless the speaker asks you to unmute, it is up to our speakers today how they would like to engage the audience, whether that's mostly through the chat or if they want you to come off mute, but plan to stay muted otherwise. If you have a tech issue or you're experiencing any tech issues, please use the chat icon in the Zoom control panel and send a chat either to myself, Danielle, or Carlene, who's here with me from the partnership. We'll do our best to assist you. We've all gotten very technically savvy as a result of this conference, so we're all getting a lot better at troubleshooting if anybody's having any difficulties. So reach out to us. We'll do what we can. Lastly, we just ask that at the end of the session, in the Zoom events lobby, in the top right-hand side of your screen, there's a little megaphone icon. And if you click on that, you'll be able to access all feedback surveys from each of the sessions you attended. Please give feedback. We love to hear it. We love to hear how we can continue to improve the conversations, what topics you guys are interested in hearing about next. So please use it as an opportunity to share your thoughts with us following this conversation. But with that, I'm super thrilled to be passing it off to Felicia, who will get us started with today's conversation. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us today. You know, I do recognize that you had other sessions to choose from, but we are very happy that you decided to join us. Today, our conversation will be about racial equity in housing development. My name is Felicia Adams. I'm with Corporation for Supportive Housing. Today, we are here with LISC Connecticut, as well as DNA Investment Holdings, to share resources and opportunities related to equity and housing development. So we do have a poll that we want to launch for you all. We just want to get a better idea of who is sharing this space with us. So if you could share your role, you know, if you're a housing developer, property manager, service provider, affordable housing provider, or if you have some other role, please let us know. So in today's sessions, we'll explore a few innovative approaches to creating a more equitable and inclusive housing future in Connecticut. We'll begin with a brief overview of the RACE initiative. RACE is Redesigning Access by Centering Equity. To further support the development of affordable housing, the session will introduce the Supportive Housing Development and Decision Guide. This is a tool created by CSH to assist development teams, particularly smaller emerging developers and developers representing Black, Indigenous, and people of color-led teams, help them to navigate the complex process of creating supportive housing units. Next, we'll hear from Francesca Ray from LISC, Connecticut. She'll share information about the Housing and Community Development Leadership Institute. This is a professional development program for people looking to transition to affordable housing and community development professions. Lastly, we'll talk with Annette Gaynor, who will share her experience about how she was able to access professional development programs and successfully redevelop a property right here in Connecticut. So our current work in Connecticut is community investment and strengthening the field. This year, CSH has invested over $5 million in lending in Connecticut supportive housing developments. We've invested $200,000 in grants and $75,000 in race initiative funding, which we'll discuss shortly. In Connecticut, we focus on strengthening the field through training, technical assistance, and quality monitoring of supportive housing programs. Now I would like to pass it over to my colleague, Alexis, to talk about some of CSH's other capabilities, as well as the race initiative.
Thank you, Felicia. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alexis Butler. I am with the Corporation for Supportive Housing, and I'm the director of our race initiative here at the organization. And so a little additional background information on CSH, as we call it. Here at CSH, we are on a mission to end homelessness by collaborating with communities nationwide to advance affordable and supportive housing developments. And so in addition to the work that we have here in the state of Connecticut, we also scale to about 14 other active states across the US with programmatic and lending presence beyond those 14 states as well. And so our work here at CSH is really driven through three primary lines of business. The first is our community investment. And so CSH is also a national community development financial institution where we have both loan products, grant opportunities to really support the early stage pre-development needs of affordable and supportive housing projects. And then the second and third area, strengthening the field in policy and advocacy, really focus on our partnership with those of all of us who are in the field on the ground, really doing the quality work around both developing, operating, and sustaining supportive housing opportunities in our community. And so within the strengthening the field, we execute that work through technical assistance and consulting and programmatic efforts. And then our policy and advocacy work really looks to cement the work of CSH and all of us collectively for generations to come through both our local, state, and federal legislative channels. Next slide, please. The Race Initiative at CSH is a special initiative that specifically focuses on the intersections of racial equity and lending opportunities. And so RACE stands for Redesigning Access by Centering Equity, and it really focuses on how CSH can both use our positioning, our influence to really address the systemic inequities that have stagnated the success of Black, Indigenous, and people of color housing developers, and removing those barriers to really drive both capital and funding opportunities to support their housing development needs and goals. And so we execute this work through both offering low barrier capital opportunities, delivering no-cost training and technical assistance, as well as pursuing policy and systems levels reforms. Next slide, please. One more. There we go. And so under our lending umbrella, we do have race initiative products as shown here on the screen. It can also be accessed at csh.org, where we have 4 primary products that are really designed and intended to support the goals of BIPOC housing developers. And so our project incentive loan, our pre-development and acquisition financing are all designed to really support the capital needs as well as the visionary goals of BIPOC developers who are producing supportive housing and affordable housing in their communities. I will put my contact information in the chat if anyone would like any more information on our loan products, our project standards, anything of that nature. I'm happy to connect offline to tell you a little more about what we offer in the lending arena. Next slide, please. And a bit of overview when we talk about the RACE initiative and the qualifications to receive our loan products or grant opportunities. When it comes to the project itself, we are looking for at least 10% of the units within the development to be supportive housing. And then additionally, also looking for both the affordability factor as well as the services factor, where as a result of receiving services on site, those within the housing development will remain stably housed. So for the actual organizations or individuals themselves, for-profit developers, we are looking for those where at least 50% or more of the principals identify as BIPOC. And then for nonprofit developers, we ask that at least 2 of the 3 criteria are met. So at least 50% or more of the board members identify as BIPOC, 50% or more of senior staff members identify as BIPOC, or the CEO, executive director identifies as BIPOC. And for any joint venture partnerships where there are 2 entities coming together to execute a development project, one or both partners within that joint venture structure are BIPOC led. If there's an organization who does not meet these goals but are actively working to diversify their organizational structure, we will engage in conversation as well and would love to learn a little more about your development goals. Next slide, please. So for more information on our lending, you can contact us at race@csh.org. That'll get you to me, and I would love to have a conversation about your goals. Next slide, please. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Felicia.
Thank you so much, Alexis. So next we're jumping right into the Supportive Housing Development and Decision Guide. At CSH, we love an acronym, so we call this the Shindig. This is a tool which helps development teams navigate through the 5 stages of development. It can be used as a guide, and it can also be used as a training tool. It is a visual tool, so it is in Excel format. You can access it from our website. It can be used as a learning tool for new staff members. The goal is to assist emerging developers as well as established developers new to permanent supportive housing development. The tool includes resource tabs, templates, a toolkit, and in-depth discussion documents, data sources, and a variety of lists. The next few slides will be an overview of the guide with screenshots of what it looks like and what you can expect to see when you download it and how to navigate the document. So this Microsoft Excel-based tool guides users in evaluating their organization's readiness and capacity to pursue and complete a quality supportive housing project. The screen you see here is the first tab you'll see once you download the guide. The flowchart outlines the 5 phases of development that the Shindig will follow. So understanding capacity and preparedness, pre-development and feasibility, capital and financing, development, and lastly, operations. It provides an opportunity to identify primary decision points that will help shape the purpose, structure, as well as the direction of the project. Embedded in the guide are additional project resources for emerging as well as BIPOC developers. The guide offers some practical strategies for overcoming common barriers and fostering equitable outcomes. Each of the 5 phases of development have 2 key components. The first component is the learner guide. This is the educational piece of the tool that provides an overview of the purpose, activities, as well as best practices associated with that particular phase of development. Each phase also has an action plan component. It is the planning and project management piece of the tool. It guides the project team on the steps, decisions, and resources needed to successfully move through that particular phase of the development. So this screen is an example of what the learner guide will look like. Specifically, this is the learner guide snapshot of phase 1. And as I stated, there's a learner guide for each of the 5 phases. So at the top, it shows the development phase. So this one is phase 1, capacity, understanding, and preparedness. Each learner guide has an overview of what each phase entails, as well as objectives and decision points. Only a portion of the learner guide screen is shown here. In the document, you'll be able to scroll down and see a list of key personnel and stakeholders. These are people who should be at the table or in conversations while in the particular phase of that development. At the bottom of each learner guide, there is a considerations and resources section. This is a foundational need to know before a development team moves into the project management portion associated with that phase of the development. Here you'll see the action plan tab. So each phase of the development also have an action plan tab or multiple tabs, and each phase will have many different resources included as well. At the top, it shows you which phase you're in. Again, we're in phase 1, organizational preparedness. Below that, you'll see a primary decision point cell. You can think of these primary decision points as the broad takeaways from any given action plan tab. For example, at the end of using the organizational preparedness, we hope the users of this guide will have made a decision about aligning supportive housing project plan with the organizational strategic plan. We hope that this tool will help the organization assess the organization's financial capacity, as well as assess the organization's program and organizational capacity. Below the primary decision points, you'll see the phases steps. The phases steps don't always align with the primary decision points. These are the in-the-weeds decision points for each development team. You can use a drop-down menu to change the status of an item, so like in progress or complete. You can also enter additional notes associated with line items in the notes section. Throughout the shindig, you'll find linked resources embedded in the tool that have been developed specifically for the supportive housing development and decision guide. Now, we've given an overview of the guide, what it entails, what it looks like, how to use it and navigate it. But on this slide, we want to share how to access the guide. To access the guide, you have to use the link shared here, and we can drop that in the chat. You'll be asked to complete this form that's to the right of your screen, and then you'll be able to download the guide. It is an Excel workbook. So once it's downloaded, be sure to select Enable Editing to be able to fully access all of the features. I'll be sure to drop that link in the chat as well so that everyone has access. I saw a few things in the chat pop up. Okay, thank you so much for putting that in the chat, Alexis. Now I'd like to pass it off to my colleague with LISC Connecticut, Francesca Ray.
Thank you, Felicia. Thank you, Alexis. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Francesca Ray. I am the Assistant Program Officer for the Local Initiative Support Corporation Connecticut office, and I mainly work on our capacity building programs. So today I will be talking about one of those programs known as the Housing and Community Development Leadership Institute, or otherwise known as the HCDLI. Next slide, please. But before I get into the program, I wanted to talk briefly about LISC. So LISC is the nation's largest community development support organization, and we provide capacity building for the sector. This is our mission statement here, and it says, together with residents and partners, LISC forges resilient and inclusive communities of opportunity across America. Great places to live, work, visit, do business, and raise families. Next slide, please. And as you can see here, LISC National operates on 4 pillars. That is empowering people, transforming places, supporting enterprises, and driving systems transformation. So these pillars drive the work that each local office does through the different programs and initiatives specified through each content area. So the HCDLI falls under the 3rd pillar, under supporting enterprises, with the aim to really build, support, and uplift current and new leaders within the sector. Next slide, please. So the program, the HCDLI, launched officially in 2021, And it was actually the product of a very candid conversation between Dale Krupp of Community Resource Management and now Commissioner Salem Musquera-Bruno, where they asked themselves, who's going to be the next us? They recognize that there are gaps and challenges in the sector around the need for higher level technical and leadership skills, the lack of representation for BIPOC individuals, especially when it comes to senior levels of leadership, and the need to equip and sustain new leaders with institutional knowledge. And with that, the program was created. Next slide, please. So just as a little bit of a background, the HCDLI is a free professional development program open to employees of Connecticut. And we have a particular focus on supporting entry for women and BIPOC individuals. Thanks to funding from the Connecticut Department of Housing and the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, List Connecticut administers this program completely at no cost. Next slide, please. So this slide here, can you go back a little bit, Felicia? There we go. Sorry about that, folks. So the next slide here talks about the 3 main goals of the program, which focuses on addressing those gaps within the sector that I mentioned previously. So the first goal on the left is to advance opportunities for BIPOC professionals. The program does this by offering core content trainings that provide a foundation for folks in the sector. These trainings include introduction to affordable housing development, community economic development, development finance, fair housing history and laws, grant writing and administration, and many, many more. The second goal of the program is to increase professional development opportunities. So some of these workshops that we offer to participants are extended to partners and organizations more broadly. And as the program has continued to grow, we've had the opportunity through one-on-one check-ins to gain feedback from participants about other critical trainings they would like to see. This has really allowed us to understand which topics and content are needed. We've heard about the need for more trainings around topics like development finance, light tech, and other housing tax subsidies. We've addressed this by doing various lunch and learns and panels, and we plan to collaborate more with partner organizations to bring more of these trainings for our folks. And as participants finish the program, they also have the opportunity to advance their career through certification, apprenticeship opportunities, as well as mentorships and board service. And lastly, the third goal of the program is to really build connections across the sector. We do this through career panels with seasoned professionals from partner organizations and networking events where participants really get to have face time with leaders in the sector. We also have a monthly newsletter that is a robust resource for job opportunities, both internal and external workshops and trainings, local and national news, as well as other relevant topics in the community development sector. Next slide, please. With that, as of present, the program has launched 4 cohorts of around 12 participants each. We actually launched our first hybrid cohort in Hamden earlier this June, which was a huge success and was very exciting for us. The program has provided opportunity for women. Over 80% of our participants have identified as women, and over 75% of our participants have identified as BIPOC. Lastly, we've had 6 participants go through apprenticeships, with 4 being offered employment by their host site. And with successes, of course, comes challenges and room for growth. Throughout our cohorts, there has been strong interest in apprenticeship and hands-on opportunities, but we found that partners have limited internal capacity to properly support one, so we have struggles in narrowing down host sites. Funding also has been an issue for us. In order to adequately support participants through career advancements, we've leveraged funding from DOH and other grants to support interest in certification, as they can be very, very expensive nowadays. Also, there has been opportunities for us to engage with groups with specific clientele to prepare them in specific career areas, and we are eager to explore that to address the gaps in this sector. Next slide, please. And before I pass it on to our next speaker, I wanted to really quickly share some photos about some of the opportunities that we've had. On the top left here was one of the program's first lunch and learns with the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, where Commissioner Salem Musquera-Bruno and former Deputy Commissioner Dr. Hanks attended. And it was actually this event where Cohort 1 participant Donna Chalmers Morrison had the opportunity to speak and connect with staff from CHAFA, and she ended up landing a position as an asset manager there. On the right here is a lunch and learn that we had earlier this year with staff from DOH, and participants from past and current cohorts were invited, where they had the chance to discuss directly with the commissioner about the current and future plans of the department, programming and initiatives, as well as other different opportunities for intersectional work between organizations. Next slide, please. And lastly, back in October of 2023, the program launched its third cohort, and we actually started off with a workshop with the Harvard Land Bank. It turned out that Annette Gaynor, HCDLI Cohort 2 participant, and who went through the Harvard Land Bank Developer of Color cohort, was a developer of the property. She led us on a tour about her experiences, her successes, and her learning lessons, turning this blighted property into a single-family home in Clay Arsenal, which she will talk more about during her portion. It was very much an exciting full circle moment for us, and it was incredible to see. Next slide, please. And just to wrap it up for me, I wanted to share this QR code with all of you and encourage you all to sign up for the HCDLI newsletter to find out about more future cohorts, trainings, and workshops, as well as partnership opportunities. Thank you all, and I will turn it over to Annette.
Thank you, Francis. I must say that you've done my introduction for me already. And I am tempted to say, welcome to the shindig, right? I just love that acronym. So as you know, I'm Annette Gaynor, and I'm an alumnus from HC, I'm always a tongue twister with this, right? HCDLI, LISC, and also Hartford Land Bank. And in doing so, I will say that I entered these cohorts. I learned a lot through both cohort program. It has allowed me to develop professionally and develop my craft. While I've come to the table with a bit of knowledge, more than some might have come, I've learned a lot. I have great takeaways, but the programs were built to customize to really help local developers, anyone that want to embark in the role of a development, real estate development, and or asset management. It's really a great outlet. And you know, when we talk about, we would like to have, all organizations would like to have the proper funding. This program needs that funding because you'll have so many people wanting to develop and be able to grow their communities. And one of the great results of that these programs is that I was able to do that through the Hartford Land Bank. Hartford Land Bank gave great opportunities for local developers to enhance their knowledge and partnership with other local trades, developers, entities, that you name it, we were exposed to it. That happened in all the program lists had fundamentally made sure that we all understood what we needed, but also put us in the right places. When you talk about the internships are great, but yes, far few in between. There's not a lot of them because of funding, right? And those opportunities for people to learn a vast majority of what they need. So I welcome the conversations of me at least being able to communicate my experiences and how do we move forward with helping entities help us, meaning the cohorts, everyone that participated in programs. How do they grow and develop a little better? We need more hands-on. And I'll talk about the fact that a developer needs to have a lot more partnerships. And you should partner up with experienced developers that has been in the trenches, because this profession is knowledge-based. It's not just you get up and tomorrow morning you say you're a developer. And not to misconstrue that developers and flippers are alike. So I say that to say I did provide, we could go to the next screen, I'm sorry. I provided a list of different pieces that you could do as in your programs to help you to develop. This is one of my, I must say, one of my pride and joys. I purchased this property from Hartford Land Bank. And I'll tell you that it was a gruesome project. A lot of labor of love in this project. So I'm very, prideful about it. And I'm even more ecstatic because we were able to put a first-time home buyer and homeowner in this property. They're extremely blissful about what they received in a recently new redeveloped property. And in 1900, the property was built. Foundation was amazing. And when you learn the craft of development, you learn that you have to partner up with the stakeholders. This project allowed me to partner up with a lot of community stakeholders and people that really truly want to see neighborhoods developed. And that's what you have to do as a developer. These programs allow you to do that, make the proper connections, be able to partner up with all that you need to. And we'll go back to Alexis, is you have to tune into her because you definitely need funding. You need to understand what's entailed in the cost factor. One thing I will say in embarking on real estate development, you should have some kind of courses that you take and build your knowledge. It is really not the easy profession to take on, but it's very rewarding. We talk about affordable housing, and now we have to look at it more of about a sustainable housing, right? And incorporate your clean energy, your going green, renewable energy. So there's so many things encompassed in being a developer, and HCDL HCDLI, Hartford and Hartford Land Bank, LISC. These are the programs that you want to gain some knowledge experiences through, and those connections will build you as a developer. I could go on and on. I know that we have a limited amount of time. Anyone that's a new developer and would like to continue this conversation with me, I'll be more than happy to do so. You'll have my email contact. You can reach out at any time. I'm often available to partner up with different developers and new developers so that I can help you to get to those milestones that's going to help you to continue to grow. We are looking to build our communities back. And this project, I'll tell you, helped to build that Clay Arsenal, Mather Street, and back. I went out and talked to a lot of the neighborhood, and they all were so highly excited to see the property develop because it had been blighted for better than, I believe, 25 years or so. And so that's what we do to build back communities. We go into the communities and talk to our stakeholders. One of the key things you have to do as a developer is please reach out to your stakeholders, have conversations, because in a lot of areas, it can make and break you. So I do believe I'm up to my time here. Again, if you would like, please reach out via email, phone, and we could continue this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annette, for sharing your success and your experience. I really appreciate you, just coming forward and being transparent about the difficulty of development and, the persistence that it takes to, see the transition from a blighted property to, an opportunity for a first-time homeowner. So I do have this slide here that kind of outlines some of Annette's learning and experience. Annette, if you wanted to speak to any of these, if not, I do have a couple of questions that I would ask, if you don't mind.
I'll quickly touch up on those. I didn't know if I was out of time, and I didn't want to because I'm so passionate about this. I'm passionate about working with LISC and the Hartford Land Bank that I would go on and on. So it is really essential that you have a legal structure. Learn and understand whatever your asset protections are going to be with your properties. But when you go out and you're looking and you're trying to make decisions on land and so on, you first need to have a business model. What are you going to do? Are you going to do residential? Are you going to do commercial? Are you going to do mixed use? These are things that, you know, the reason why I brought up that I'm not a flipper is because oftentimes people think you take a property and you just, you know, renovate it and then you're a developer, and that's not so. There's so much more that goes into it. But you have to be able to market, you have to be able to get your land acquisition. There's your development plans. You work closely with your architect, your surveyors. Do you want this to be a subdivision? How far do you want this to grow? Are you on a smaller scale, mid scale? And your banking relationships is so important. That's why I say to you, reach out to Alexis, because the funding definitely can stop a project, right? If you don't have the funds, you're not going to be able to move forward. And then your contractors, you need solid contractors to work with you. And they should be a part of the conversation in the beginning as well. But I gave this list. It's not, you know, it's not limited to, but there's so much more. You do your due diligence, you do your analysis, you work with your local zoning and planning department. But I'll leave it there. Just, I want to make sure that you understood that there's a lot of learning and you're going to make some mistakes. A vast majority of first-time developers, real estate developers, make mistakes, right? And there are big developers that continue to make mistakes today, but do you learn from them, and how do you apply them to your future project? So this list is not limited to, but it's just a starting point.
Thank you so much, Annette, for sharing that. We do want to take the time to open it up for questions. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat. And, you know, we're available to answer those questions if you have any. And if not, I have questions prepared. So thank you, Annette, for sharing your experience. If you were, you know, recommending HCDLI to someone, what would you say was the highlight of your experience with that program? Or was there any particular thing that you learned that was instrumental in your success?
Oh my gosh, there's a lot. So we've got grant writing. We learned about performers. But the connection and the resources were so essential in us being successful. And the program offered continuous outreach as to, even while you're in the program, you meet other participants, right? And their backgrounds coupled with your background made a big difference in the diversity and the diversity is not, it's everything. We had a mixture of women and all types of background, but the content that was received, the courses, I'll all say they all, I was able to extract something from each and every one of them. And you don't know until you know, right? And the courses allowed for us to know some things that we would have probably just said, oh, I don't need that. And being in redeveloping that home, I found that there's some things in the beginning I said, oh my gosh, it's a good thing that I caught this. And I understood that I needed to make certain connections with, say, the zoning department, asking them questions, doing some partnerships with them. And then, you know, working sometimes backwards into, oops, I missed a step. And sometimes you have to pull back a bit, repair that step, meaning I didn't reach out to, you know, zoning and ask them a few questions how to make a change in a different property. So not that particular property, but I've been working on some vacant lots. And there's few steps that you would, you know, you particularly overlook, but then you need your digger and then you're poor. And you have to build these relationships. And the programs allowed for you to build relationships with different people.
Thank you so much. So we do have a question in the chat, and this is for Alexis. Is race national? Is there a focus on rural states? I'm in Arkansas. Thank you.
Hi, Sylvia. Thanks for your question. The RACE initiative is a national effort where we do offer both our lending and then separately our communities of practice, which are cohort models that take place right now in about 6 cities across the US. Very similar to the efforts of LISC, our cohort model is really focusing on the grounding components of supportive housing development. And so how do I get started? How do I go through the required approval processes? How do I get financing and funding? And so that model is currently offered in 6 states. Right now, Arkansas is not one, but would love to connect with you one-on-one to learn a little more about your needs and where the RACE initiative could be of partnership to you. Additionally, I will put in the chat box a brochure that talks a little more about our communities of practice, our lending products, and just a little more about the resources that we offer. But currently the closest community of practice would be in New York State. So not quite in Arkansas, we're working on Connecticut, but looking forward to continue to grow with each of you in our RACE initiative efforts.
Thank you, Alexis. Frances, I have a question for you. Can you tell us what's next for HCDLI? Is there a cohort coming up? And if so, is there a way for people to sign up or get more information?
Of course. Thank you, Felicia. In terms of signing up and getting more information, you can either visit our website at hcdli.org, which I will drop in the chat after, or you can sign up for a newsletter through the website or through that QR code that I shared. But in terms of the future of the HCDLI, it's very exciting because there are different paths that we can explore. After our first hybrid cohort in June, we are talking about potentially bringing a hybrid cohort here in Hartford sometime in early 2025. And other avenues that we're exploring is partnering with other organizations that have specific clientele. And we want to potentially bring in a cohort that would cater to those clienteles to help them find permanent employment within the sector, within specific areas of their career. So we're trying to build on the program based on the feedback that we've gotten from past participants and based on conversations that we will be having with DOH. But it's very much in the works right now, but there are opportunities that we are very excited about.
Thank you. Annette, I have one more question for you. Just overall, what's next? I heard you mention a couple of vacant lots. So what new developments are you working on?
You know, some really good projects. So I've been partnering up with people throughout the city that has vacant lots. I live, work, and play in Hartford. So I have to do majority of my work here because of my choice. So I've been partnering up with a lot of individuals that own vacant lots. And I could gladly say that one individual that owns, I believe about 10 lots. And we plan on getting at least, it was 20 something doors started and hopefully completed by 26, because we'll be doing them simultaneously and they'll be in specific areas. So what's next for me is that I'm going to continue to work diligently and partnering up with those that have a lack of understanding and ability for some of the perils that goes into being a developer. I will take their properties or their vacant lots and develop them for them, and we'll continue to grow to put, you know, people back in homes or put people in their first time home. And that's what I'll be doing for the next couple of weeks. I have veered out of the city and the state to partner up with other entities in developing affordable housing space, which I guess we're going to start saying it supports sustainable housing. But I've been doing a lot of that. So you'll see and hear a lot more from me in our community. We need to build back our community, and a part of us doing that is having diligent, ethical developers to make things work. So you'll be seeing a lot more of me.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to seeing your developments come online and people move in. If anyone attended the earlier session, there was, of course, a lot of talk about the need for affordable housing in our state. Annette, as well as many other people here with us right now, are making that happen. And, I'm very proud of you, and I'm happy to be a partner with LISC in this work. So just to recap, we shared a few resources about affordable and supportive housing development, about bringing more Black, Indigenous, and people of color into the space. CSH, we offer the RACE initiative funding. Again, RACE is Redesigning Access by Centering Equity. If you need more information about that, please reach out to Alexis Butler. The other tool that we showed is the Supportive Housing Development and Decision Guide, also known as the Shindig. It is an Excel tool to walk you through that development process, as well as the other resource we shared was LISC, HCDLI. Thank you, Frances, for dropping that in the chat with the newsletter. Let's see, I don't think we have any other questions. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here.
If I can add something really quick, sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of times women face a lot of challenges in this space. And I have thick skin. So the challenges that I faced, I knew how to get around them, and not a lot of people do. And not even just so get around them, but to make light of what needs to change. And a lot of what I've bumped into was even the funding, and the resources is extremely important. If we can keep programs like this alive, really train people, keep them vibrant in understanding if they went into this is what you want, then here's how we can make it work collectively. Because women do struggle to go in this arena. I didn't add the fact that I'm also a general contractor, and it really is a struggle for me. However, I want this for our community. I want to see us build back. I want to see affordable homes. I want people living, when I do my properties, I don't put, flimsy things in. I must say that I put quality cabinets and flooring and so on into these properties, because everyone deserves to have a very comfortable and warm, inviting home, not just a house. So I want to make sure that that's understood. I build for tomorrow, today. And it's important that we understand that women go through it, and any kind of relationship I can forge to help me continue to do the best that I can for our community, I welcome it.
Thank you so much, Annette. And thank you all for attending. Oh yeah, someone put in quotes, "Bill for tomorrow, today." Yes. But I would like to hand it back over to the partnership for any closing remarks.
Yeah, just thank you so much. This was an incredible conversation. I couldn't have ended it on a better note than Annette, so I'm really glad you got the last word in there. But yeah, we are at the end of the conference day 1. Plan to join us again tomorrow. We kick off at 9:30. We'll have Brian McCabe and Eva Rosen from Georgetown University joining us to kick off the day, and followed by a mayor's roundtable and another round of breakout sessions through the afternoon. So thank you so much again. This was an awesome conversation. So appreciative of all the work that you all are doing, and excited to see you again in the morning. Thanks so much, everyone.